Rockets and Lakers, the rookie versus the champion, Yao Ming versus Shaquille O'Neal.
Quite simply, we're talking about the most dominant force in the NBA.
They're watching live in Shanghai at 10:30 in the morning.
Yao versus Shaq. Drafted in 2002 with the first overall pick, only a handful of moments in NBA history were as anticipated as the arrival of Yao Ming. At 7'5" and with the support from a nation of over 1 billion people, the expectations were high. Very high. The pressure was insurmountable. But right off the bat, Yao did not disappoint. Every game, the Rockets' viewership numbers skyrocketed compared to the year before. However, there was one matchup that everyone really wanted to see. How will Yao do against the best center in the league, Shaquille O'Neal, who was smack dab in the middle of his prime? They didn't know each other, but the rivalry came naturally. Due to Yao's popularity, he, unsurprisingly, got voted in as a starter for the All-Star game, which, it rubbed some people the wrong way. Since, he was good, but he wasn't good enough to be a starter yet, especially as a rookie. And over Shaq? No way. This added some extra fuel to the fire for Shaq. This became his most anticipated matchup in a long time. Oh, you bet he marked down the date. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today let's talk about Shaq's first encounter with Yao Ming, and what really happened. Did Yao really get the better of Shaq, like most people said? Or was that not the case? Let's take a look at that and all the media noise surrounding this monumental moment. First, we must understand the context prior to their matchup. Near the start of the season, the Rockets and Lakers actually played each other, but Shaq was recovering from an injury, so he did not play. Yao, however, came off the bench and dropped 20 points on 9 for 9 shooting. Up until this point, it was his best game, and he dismantled the Lakers who were struggling without Shaq. This caught the attention of everybody and made some major headlines. Is Yao going to take over Shaq's throne? Is he the next guy up? Even if Shaq played, would he be able to stop Yao Ming? Could Yao stamp his name as one of the best centers of all time? All the overreactions poured in, but it's expected for a guy who everyone's closely examining. Of course, Shaq, on the other hand, when people aren't talking about him or they think another center is better, he feels disrespected. Despite not even playing against him yet, during an interview, he made some comments that were uncalled for. His father even stepped in and told him to apologize and that this is not how you should behave, especially since when Yao was a kid, he used to send him letters all the time and wanted to be like him. So this was just a slap in the face. But he didn't take it too seriously. Yao was focused on playing against him for the first time. He would get this opportunity soon enough. A few months down the road, on January 17, 2003, it was time. The game that the entire world was looking forward to all season long. The first ever meeting between Shaquille O'Neal and Yao Ming. 3.3 million households tuned in to watch this marquee matchup, the second highest viewership ever for an NBA regular season game on cable TV, with nearly 5 million across all broadcasts, only trailing a Lakers game in 1996, when Magic Johnson came back from retirement. However, it's likely that this game between Shaq and Yao had way more viewers in actuality. Those metrics didn't take into account all the viewers from China, which we don't have any numbers on. Either way, you get the idea. The hype was ridiculous. I think when Shaq saw all the attention on Yao, he got jealous, and he made it his mission to dismantle him. The game starts. In the first possession, Shaq immediately called for the ball, dropped his shoulder into Yao, and normally, against 95% of all other centers, this would have been an easy dunk for Shaq. But Yao, towering over him and having an incredibly strong foundation, would not budge easy. He altered the shot. He was credited with a block, and Shaq missed badly. Most people don't know this, but in this play, the first play of this game, Yao injured his index finger contesting this shot. That's why by the second half, he was feeling the pain and struggled. However, for the first 6 minutes of the game, it was all Yao. On the next possession, he hit a clean hook shot over Shaq. And it wasn't just his smooth touch that impressed folks. It was the ability for him to get into position so easily. When you're facing a guy as strong as Shaq, he could just use his body to block you off or move you away from the basket. But Yao is sturdy. He cannot be moved that easily. The next few possessions would be similar. Shaq got his next 2 shots blocked as well, and for the first time in his life, he looked rattled. He was getting humiliated. Yao got the best of him again and again. 6 minutes into the game and Yao had 6 points and Shaq had 0, as he looked like a complete fool out there. Now, despite Yao's popularity, a good portion of the NBA fanbase still hasn't seen him play yet until this game. Most people weren't aware that he also had arguably the most versatile offensive repertoire of any center in the league. Even at his age, the dude was doing fadeaways, he can shoot from the outside, he had a clean hook shot. And heck, I swear to God, if he entered the NBA today, he'd be shooting threes. Yao was also a fantastic free throw shooter, which, for a center, people weren't used to seeing that. At this time, the league was craving for a new center to at least somewhat compete with Shaq, and Yao's early years were a bright sign for things to come. It was his defense, though, that really impressed. Prior to this game, Phil Jackson has been closely paying attention to Yao as well, and he told the press, "A matchup with Shaquille has never been contested as something one-on-one. This has always been a guy you needed 3 guys to play against, not 1. But because Yao has played so great at the offensive end, we've all been looking to see how he's going to do at the other end of the court against O'Neal." That was the question everyone else was wondering too. How will Yao do defensively against Shaq? Can he guard him? Turns out, he did pretty damn well at the start. As the game progressed, however, it was quite clear that Yao could not match up to the endless physicality and bruising of Shaq. During a timeout when Shaq was on the bench, he was fuming. He wasn't mad at anyone but himself, the thoughts in his head racing. After an abysmal first 6 minutes, his first points back in the game was a deep position dunk. And it wasn't just his offense that turned up. Shaq made it his goal to not let Yao score another point. After more time has passed, that goal was looking more and more likely. Despite Yao outscoring Shaq 6-0 in the first 6 minutes, Shaq still scored 11 points by the end of the first half, while Yao still had 6, cause he missed his next 7 shots. Defensively is where Yao exceeded expectations, as I mentioned. This was a part of his game that's been severely underrated his entire career. He was an incredible positional defender, and his lower body was so strong, so when he bulked up over the years, nobody could move him in the post anymore. No center in the league gave Shaq as much trouble as Yao did, even as a mere rookie. However, Shaq is a very smart player, and he realized what was going on. Instead of trying his usual post-ups, he needed to position himself closer to the basket to score and catch the ball closer and deeper into the paint. At this point of his career, he's way stronger than Yao, so the physical play will eventually wear Yao down, and it got him in foul trouble too. The game quickly went from Yao's defensive dominance to Shaq's offensive showcase. But this was a great game, regardless of these two. For the rest of the game, Yao took a back seat as his teammates Steve Francis and Cuttino Mobley were going off. Shaq was dominating as usual. Eventually, the game went into overtime. That's when the Rockets secured the victory off a dunk from Yao with 10 seconds left. From an individual perspective, Shaq heavily outplayed Yao. Shaq recorded 31 points to Yao's 10, but it did crush all the doubts that Yao was a soft center. His defensive presence and his unwavering physicality was a breath of fresh air during a time when the league was desperate for better centers to compete with Shaq. This first matchup between them was influential in more ways than one. Not only was it the most watched regular season game ever if you include overseas viewers, but it sparked a new rivalry and a new friendship for years to come. Shaq rarely compliments other centers, especially rookies who get compared to him. But with Yao, after that first meeting, he said to the media, quote, "He's a good player and a pretty nice guy." He even reached out to apologize to Yao for his comments prior to the game. As their careers progressed, they've played 18 games against each other, with Shaq winning the head-to-head 10 games to 8. Numbers-wise, it was actually quite close. In their second meeting, Shaq dominated Yao with 39 points, but that would be the last 30-plus point game he had against Yao. As Yao reached his prime, he would get him back with 2 30-plus point games of his own, and their mutual respect grew. They developed their friendship over time, and decades later, it's quite clear that respect and camaraderie is still there. It's upsetting to see Yao's career take a downward turn, with all the foot injuries and other leg problems. His prime faded quickly, and we missed out on what could have been one of the best centers of that generation. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.